Welcome to Mira Stories. Welcome to stories that will keep you on edge.
The morning sun pierced through the gaps in the heavy curtains of apartment 23B, illuminating dust particles that danced in the stale air. Chioma Okafor stood before her full-length mirror, the only clean spot in her entire bedroom, applying the final touches of her makeup with practiced precision. Her reflection showed a woman who could stop traffic, flawless bronze skin, perfectly contoured cheekbones, and lips painted in a shade of red that screamed confidence. Around her, however, told a different story. Mountains of unwashed clothes formed small hills across her bedroom floor, some clean, most dirty, all mingled together in chaotic harmony. Empty takeout containers from the past week sat stacked on her bedside table, attracting fruit flies that had made her apartment their permanent residence. The carpet, once cream-colored, was now a dingy brown, stained with spills she couldn't remember making. Cobwebs decorated the corners of her ceiling like makeup party streamers. Perfect, Chioma whispered to herself, admiring her outfit, a designer dress she'd bought on credit, paired with shoes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She spritzed herself generously with her signature perfume, Tom Ford's Lost Cherry, a scent that cost 85,000 Nigerian nairas per bottle. The fragrance temporarily masked the musty odor that had become her apartment's permanent atmosphere. Her phone buzzed with notifications, Instagram comments flooding in from her morning post. She'd photographed herself against the one clean wall in her living room, the spot she designated as her content corner. To her 47,000 followers, Chioma was living the dream. Luxury bags, expensive dinners at Lagos's finest restaurants, weekend getaways to Calabar and Abuja. They called her #Chioma the Queen, #Lagos Finest, #GoLAF. If only they knew. She grabbed her designer bag, authentic, unlike some of her other accessories, and carefully navigated through the obstacle course of her apartment. In the kitchen, dirty dishes had been piling up for 3 weeks. She'd stopped counting. The sink was clogged, and she'd simply started using paper plates and plastic cutlery, tossing them into garbage bags that now formed a small mountain by her kitchen door. The bathroom was perhaps the worst. Mold had claimed the shower tiles as its kingdom, growing in artistic patterns she might have appreciated under different circumstances. Her toilet hadn't been scrubbed in, she couldn't remember. The mirror was splattered with toothpaste and water spots, making it useless for anything except distorted reflections. But none of that mattered as she locked her door and stepped into the corridor of the luxury apartment complex in Lekki Phase 1. Here, she transformed. Her back straightened, her smile widened, and she became the Chioma everyone expected to see. "Good morning, Chichi," her neighbor, Mrs. Adebayo, called from across the hall. The older woman was impeccably dressed, heading out for her morning walk. "Morning, Ma. You look radiant as always," Chioma responded, her voice dripping with honey. "When will you invite me over for tea? I've been in this building for 6 months, and you've never let anyone in," Mrs. Adebayo said with a knowing smile. Chioma's heart skipped. "Oh, Ma, you know how it is. I'm renovating. Very messy. Once it's done, you'll be my first guest, I promise." It was the same excuse she'd been using for the past year. Renovations that would never happen. A transformation that existed only in her excuses. As she walked to her car, a fairly new Toyota Corolla she was still making payments on, she scrolled through her phone. Her best friend, Shade, had sent a message, "Babe, are you coming to my party on Saturday? You can crash at mine after if you want." Chioma quickly typed back, "Won't miss it for the world. But I'll head home after. You know I like sleeping in my own bed." Smiling face with smiling eyes, another lie. The truth was, she couldn't risk Shade offering to drop her home and insisting on coming up. No one could see how she really lived. The disconnect between her public persona and private reality had become a chasm so wide, she sometimes forgot which version of herself was real. At her job as a marketing executive at Pinnacle Advertising Agency, Chioma was known for her impeccable style and razor-sharp presentations. Her desk was always organized, her reports always on time. She'd learned to compartmentalize, to keep her chaos contained within the four walls of her apartment, Chioma. Conference room in 5. We're discussing the Ademara Luxury Hotels campaign, her boss, Mr. Okonkwo, called out. This was the campaign she'd been waiting for. Ademara Luxury Hotels was launching a new property in Dubai, and they needed a creative director for the international marketing team. The position came with a promotion, a 60% salary increase, and most importantly, a 6-month stint in Dubai. It was her ticket out, her chance to start fresh, to become the person everyone thought she already was. In the conference room, she dazzled. Her presentation was flawless, her ideas innovative. She'd worked on it until 3 a.m. the previous night, sitting on her bedroom floor because her desk had disappeared under piles of stuff months ago. Brilliant work, Chioma, Mr. Okonkwo beamed. You're definitely in the running for the Dubai position. We'll make the final decision next month. As Chioma returned to her desk, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Hi Chioma, it's Emeka. I got your number from Shade. Hope you don't mind. Would love to take you out for dinner sometime. Her heart stopped. Emeka. Emeka Chukuma. The man she'd been crushing on for the past 8 months. They'd met at Shade's birthday party, and since then, she'd stalked his Instagram like it was her job. He was everything, handsome, successful, kind, and according to Shade, genuinely interested in finding a serious relationship. But dinner meant the possibility of him wanting to see her place afterward. It meant risk. It meant her 2 words potentially colliding. She stared at the message for a long moment before typing, Hi Emeka. Of course I remember you. Dinner sounds great. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Playing it cool while her heart raced. This was the man of her dreams showing interest, and the very thought filled her with equal parts excitement and absolute terror. That evening, as she returned to her apartment, she stood at her door for a long moment before turning the key. The smell hit her first, it always did. She'd become somewhat nose-blind to it, but that first moment of entry was always a shock to her system. She stepped over the threshold into her secret shame, and for just a moment, looking at the disaster that was her home, Chioma Okafor let her carefully constructed mouth slip. A single tear rolled down her perfectly made-up face. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, the same promise she'd been making for months. Tomorrow I'll clean up. But tomorrow never came. It never did. 3 days had passed since Emeka's message, and Chioma had successfully avoided committing to a specific date. She'd used every excuse in the book, work deadlines, family obligations, a fictional cousin's wedding. But Emeka was persistent in the most charming way possible. You know, Chioma, he texted that morning, if you don't want to go out with me, just say so. But if you do, I promise I'll make it worth your while. Just name the time and place. I'll work around your schedule. His directness disarmed her. Most Lagos guys played games, but Emeka was refreshingly straightforward. It was one of the many things that made her like him even more. She finally agreed to dinner on Friday night at Nok by Alara, a trendy restaurant in Victoria Island. It was public, sophisticated, and most importantly, nowhere near her apartment, but as the week progressed, her anxiety grew. What if he wanted to take her home? What if he suggested coffee at her place? She'd seen enough Nollywood movies and lived enough life to know that successful dates often ended with someone asking to come up for a bit. By Wednesday, her apartment had reached a new level of chaos. She'd started and abandoned 3 different cleaning attempts. Each time, she'd pull out the vacuum cleaner, which was buried under winter coats she never wore in Lagos, only to become overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the mess and give up before even starting. The irony wasn't lost on her. At work, she could manage complex campaigns, coordinate teams, meet impossible deadlines. But in her personal space, she was paralyzed by disorder. Chioma, Mr. Okonkwo wants to see you, her colleague Jennifer announced, poking her head into Chioma's cubicle. Chioma's heart rate picked up. It had only been a week since the presentation. Could it be about Dubai already? In Mr. Okonkwo's office, she found not just her boss but also Mrs. Ademola, the CEO of Ademola Luxury Hotels herself. The elegant older woman stood by the window, looking out at the Lagos skyline. Chioma, thank you for joining us, Mr. Okonkwo began. Mrs. Ademola wanted to meet you personally before making her final decision about the Dubai position. Mrs. Ademola turned, and Chioma was struck by her presence. Everything about her screamed old money and refinement. Her wrapper was clearly authentic Osok, her jewelry understated but obviously expensive. Miss Okafor, Mrs. Ademola said, her voice warm but assessing, your presentation was impressive. But I don't just hire based on PowerPoint slides. Tell me, what makes you think you're ready for this opportunity? Chioma took a breath. This was it, her moment. Ma, I believe I'm ready because I understand the luxury market intimately. I know what makes high-end clients tick, what they value, what draws them in. I've built my entire career on understanding aspiration and delivering on it. The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. Understanding luxury. She couldn't even maintain basic cleanliness in her own home. Mrs. Ademola studied her for a long moment. You present yourself well, Chioma. That's important in this business. Image is everything. But I've learned that the best representatives of luxury are those who live it authentically, not just project it. Do you understand the difference? Chioma felt exposed, as if Mrs. Ademola could see right through her. Yes, Ma. Authenticity it's everything. Good. I'll make my decision by the end of the month. But Chioma, a word of advice, make sure your private life reflects the same excellence you show professionally. Clients in this industry have a way of seeing through facades. They value genuine quality over mere appearance. As Chioma left the office, Mrs. Ademola's words echoed in her mind. Facades. Quality over appearance. It was as if the woman had peered directly into her soul and found it wanting. That evening, instead of going straight home, Chioma drove aimlessly through Lagos. From the organized chaos of CMS, through the gridlock of Folomo, past the gleaming high-rises of Eco Atlantic. She watched the city transform as they gave way to night, watched people rushing home to families, to clean houses, to normal lives. She parked at a viewing point along Bar Beach and sat in her car, watching the Atlantic Ocean crash against the shore. Her phone buzzed with messages, she'd asking about her outfit for Friday's date, her mother asking when she'd visit home, another place she avoided, knowing her mother would ask too many questions, her landlord reminding her that rent was due in 2 weeks. Rent. 850,000 Nigerian nairas for a one-bedroom in Lekki. She was bleeding money to maintain an address that impressed people, while living in squalor behind closed doors. A knock on her window startled her. A young man, probably in his early 20s, stood outside with a bucket and squeegee. Auntie, make I clean your windscreen. Just 200 Nigerian nairas, he offered. Chioma looked at him, his clothes worn but clean, his hustle honest. She nodded and handed him 500 Nigerian nairas through a crack in the window. As he cleaned her windscreen with meticulous care, she realized something. This young man probably lived in a Face Me I Face You compound somewhere in Mushin or Ajigono. But she'd bet his space, however small, was cleaner than her luxury apartment. He took pride in what little he had. She took her abundance for granted. Thank you, Auntie. God bless you, he said with a genuine smile when he finished. God bless you too, she replied, and meant it. That night, she stood at her apartment door again, key in hand. But this time, instead of just stepping over the threshold and ignoring the mess, she turned on every light and really looked at what her life had become. The living room was unrecognizable. Her expensive couch was buried under clothes, shopping bags, and empty Amazon and Jumia packages. The coffee table she'd spent 120,000 Nigerian nairas on was invisible beneath stacks of magazines, old mail, and takeout menus. Her TV, which she'd bought on installment, was dusty and unused. She usually just watched Netflix on her laptop in bed because the remote was lost somewhere in the chaos. She pulled out her phone and took a picture. Not for Instagram. Just for herself. Evidence of her secret shame. Then she opened her notes app and typed, "Things I'm lying about, my apartment, my cleanliness, my organizational skills, my ability to have people over, basically my entire domestic life." She stared at the list. Then added one more line, "My readiness for Dubai. My readiness for Emeka. My readiness for an adult life." The truth hurt, but there it was, in black and white on her phone screen. She thought about canceling the date with Emeka. It would be easier. Safer. But something Mrs. Ademola had said nagged at her: authenticity is everything. Maybe it was time to start being authentic. Or at least, time to start becoming someone who could be. She set an alarm on her phone, 5:30 a.m., start cleaning. For real this time. But as she crawled into bed that night, pushing aside the clutter to make space for herself, she had serious doubts about whether she'd actually follow through. Her dreams that night were troubled, images of Emeka arriving at her door, his face changing from admiration to disgust as he saw her apartment. Mrs. Ademola shaking her head disappointedly. Her mother crying in shame. Shade laughing at her deception. She woke up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, her phone illuminating a message from Emeka: "Can't wait for Friday. I have a feeling this could be the start of something special. Sweet dreams, Chioma." She read the message 3 times, her heart aching with a mixture of hope and dread. Something special. If only he knew what he was getting into. Friday arrived faster than Chioma wanted. She'd managed to clean exactly one corner of her apartment, the bathroom, which took 4 hours and an entire bottle of bleach. The rest of her place remained a disaster zone, but at least if Emeka somehow ended up needing to use her bathroom, she wouldn't die of complete embarrassment. She spent 3 hours getting ready, trying on 7 different outfits before settling on a burnt orange midi dress that hugged her calves perfectly. Her makeup was flawless, her hair freshly done at Jade's Beauty Temple in Victoria Island, 35,000 Nigerian nairas she didn't really have to spare. She looked like $1 million, she felt like a fraud. Emeka had offered to pick her up, but she'd insisted on meeting him at the restaurant. "It's closer to where I'm coming from," she'd lied. The truth was, she couldn't risk him seeing her building's exterior and asking to come up. When she arrived at Nok by Alara, Emeka was already there, and her breath caught. He looked even better than she remembered, tall, well-built, his smile lighting up his entire face when he saw her. "Chioma," he said, standing to greet her. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Dinner was perfect. Emeka was charming without being overbearing, funny without trying too hard. He told her about his work as a renewable energy consultant, his passion for sustainable development in Africa, his dreams of making Nigeria's power sector more efficient. "I know it sounds naive," he said, laughing at himself, "but I genuinely believe we can transform this country. We just need people who care enough to do the work." Chioma found herself genuinely engaged, not just playing the part of an interested date. That's not naive at all. It's admirable. We need more people thinking like that. "What about you?" Emeka asked, leaning forward with genuine interest. "What drives you? What's the dream beyond the marketing campaigns?" The question caught her off guard. What did drive her? She'd been so focused on appearances, on maintaining her image, that she'd forgotten to think about actual goals. I want the Dubai position," she found herself saying honestly. "Not just for the money or the prestige. I want a fresh start. A chance to become better." Better than what? Emeka asked gently. Just better, she said, unable to articulate the truth. As the evening progressed, Chioma felt herself relaxing. Maybe this could work. Maybe she could date Emeka while keeping her secret. People had relationships without seeing each other's homes all the time, right? Then Emeka said something that made her heart drop. You know, she told me something about you that I really appreciated. Oh. Chioma's voice was cautious. What had Shade said?
She said you're very private, that you don't let many people into your inner circle. I respect that. Too many people in Lagos are all show and no substance. But I like to think that when you do let someone in, it means something. Chioma forced a smile. If only he knew the real reason for her privacy. Listen, Emeka continued, reaching across the table to take her hand. I know this is just our first date, but I feel like I should be honest with you. I'm not looking for something casual. I've dated enough to know what I want. I want something real, with someone genuine. I think you might be that person, Chioma. His words should have filled her with joy. Instead, they filled her with dread. Real. Genuine. The two things she was not. I'd like to take this slow, she said carefully. Get to know each other properly. Absolutely, Emeka agreed. No rush. But I do want to see you again. How about tomorrow? We could do something more casual. I could cook for you at my place, or I could come to yours. Either way, I make a mean jollof rice. There it was. The invitation she'd been dreading. Tomorrow's a bit tight, she said quickly. I have a work thing in the morning, and my place is being fumigated. Long story. Roaches. She laughed nervously. It wasn't entirely a lie. She probably did have roaches. She just hadn't checked recently. No problem, Emeka said easily. Next week then? As the date wound down, Emeka walked her to her car. I had a really great time tonight, he said. You're even more amazing than I imagined. He leaned in, and Chioma thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his lips gently to her forehead. Drive safe, okay? Text me when you get home. The gesture was so tender, so respectful, that Chioma felt tears prick her eyes. This man was perfect. And she was going to lose him because she couldn't clean her damn apartment. She drove home in a daze, Emeka's words playing on repeat in her mind. Something real, with someone genuine. But when she opened her apartment door, reality crashed down on her. In her rush to get ready, she'd left even more chaos in her wake. Her rejected outfit choices were scattered across every surface. Her makeup was strewn across the bathroom counter, the one area she'd cleaned. Hair products and styling tools littered the floor. She sank onto her couch, or rather, onto the pile of clothes on her couch, and finally let herself cry. Really cry. Not the pretty, delicate tears of a movie heroine, but ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs. Her phone buzzed. Emeka, made it home yet? I can't stop thinking about you. Tonight was perfect. She typed back, just got in. Tonight was wonderful. You're wonderful. Thank you. What she wanted to type was, I'm a mess. My apartment is a disaster. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not worthy of your genuine interest. But she didn't. Instead, she did what she always did, she pushed down the truth and maintained the lie. Except this time, the lie felt heavier. Because this time, there was something real at stake. She looked around her apartment with fresh eyes. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about being someone worthy of Emeka's interest. Someone worthy of the Dubai position. Someone worthy of the life she pretended to have on Instagram. She stood up, grabbed a garbage bag, and made a decision. She was going to clean. Starting right now, she lasted exactly 15 minutes before the overwhelm set in. Where did she even start? The clothes? The dishes? The trash? It was all so interconnected, so tangled up, that pulling one thread seemed to unravel everything else. She abandoned the garbage bag and crawled into bed instead, promising herself she'd try again tomorrow. But as she lay there in the dark, she knew the truth. Tomorrow had been coming 4 months. And it never actually arrived. What she needed wasn't tomorrow. What she needed was help. But that required admitting she had a problem. And Chioma Okafor didn't do vulnerability. Or at least, she hadn't. Until now.
Sunday afternoon, Chioma was in her apartment, halfway through binge-watching a series on Netflix, still in her pajamas at 3 p.m. The date with Emeka had been 3 days ago, and they'd been texting constantly. Each message made her like him more, and each message made her anxiety about her situation worse. She'd been avoiding Shade's calls because her friend had a sixth sense for knowing when something was wrong. Shade had left 3 voicemails. Babe, how was the date? I need details. Why are you ghosting me? Chioma was just reaching for her 5th packet of chin-chin when her doorbell rang. She froze. Nobody rang her doorbell. Nobody came to her apartment. Ever. Maybe it was the landlord. But rent wasn't due for another week, and she'd always paid on time even if it meant living on noodles for days afterward. The doorbell rang again, more insistently this time. Chioma. I know you're in there. Your car is downstairs. Shade's voice came through the door. Open up or I'm calling the police. I haven't heard from you in days. Panic surged through Chioma's body like electricity. Shade. Here. At her door. Just a minute. Chioma called out, her voice cracking. She looked around wildly. The apartment was a disaster, possibly worse than usual because she'd been in a post-date depression spiral. What could she do in just a minute? Clean the entire place. Fake a gas leak. Pretend she died. Chioma, what's taking so long? Do you have a man in there? Shade laughed. Even better. I want to meet him. Chioma's mind raced. She could pretend to be sick, cough dramatically, claim she was contagious. But Shade had a key. Chioma had given it to her years ago for emergencies. If she didn't open the door, Shade would use it. There was no escape. With trembling hands, Chioma unlocked the door but opened it only a crack, blocking the view inside with her body. Shade, hey. I'm so sorry, I've been meaning to call you back. Girl, move. Shade pushed past her playfully. Why are you acting like you're hiding something? She stopped mid-sentence as she took in the apartment. The silence that followed was deafening. Chioma watched her best friend's face cycle through emotions, confusion, shock, disbelief, and finally, understanding. Shade turned to look at her, and Chioma saw something she'd never seen before in her friend's eyes, pity. Chi. Shade's voice was soft, almost a whisper. What is this? It's. I can explain. How long? Shade asked, slowly walking through the living room, carefully stepping over piles of clutter. How long has it been like this? Chioma felt hot tears streaming down her face. I don't know. A year. Maybe more. I lost track. Shade picked up an empty takeout container, checked the date on the receipt stuck to it. This is from January. It's October. I know. Chioma's voice was barely audible. I know. Shade turned to face her fully. All this time. All these Instagram posts, all these designer outfits, all this living your best life content, and you've been living like this. I'm not, it's not. Chioma couldn't form a complete sentence. The dam had broken, and everything was spilling out. I don't know how it got this bad, Shade. I don't know when I stopped being able to control it. One day I had a few dishes in the sink, and then it was like I woke up and it was all like this. Shade sat down on the couch, pushing aside clothes to make space. Babe, come here. Chioma sat beside her, and Shade pulled her into a hug. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you think you had to hide this from me? From everyone? Because I'm ashamed. Chioma sobbed. Because look at me. Look at this place. I'm supposed to have my life together. I'm the #Lagos finest, remember? How could I be #Lagos finest when I can't even keep my own house clean? How could I admit that I'm a complete failure at being an adult? You're not a failure, Shade said firmly. But this isn't normal. This isn't just about being messy or lazy. I think you might need help. Like, professional help. Chioma pulled away. I don't need therapy. I just need to be better at cleaning. No, Shade said, standing up and looking around. This isn't about cleaning. This is about something deeper. People who are okay don't live like this, especially not when they're clearly capable of functioning everywhere else in their lives. Before Chioma could respond, her phone rang. Emeka's name flashed on the screen. Is that him? Shade asked. Answer it. Chioma shook her head frantically. I can't. Not now. But Shade had already grabbed the phone and answered, putting it on speaker. Hello. Emeka. Oh, hello. Is this Chioma? Emeka's voice was confused. It's Shade, her friend. Hold on. Shade thrust the phone at Chioma with a look that said, deal with this. Hello. Chioma stammered. Hey. You sound upset. Is everything okay? Emeka's concern was immediate and genuine. I'm fine, just. Shade surprised me with a visit. Oh. Well, that's perfect timing actually. I'm in your area, Lekki Phase 1, right? I just finished a site inspection nearby and thought I'd take a chance and see if you were home. I brought that wine you mentioned you liked. Chioma's blood ran cold. You're where? About 5 minutes from your building. She'd mentioned your address once when she was trying to convince me to ask you out, he laughed. I hope that's not creepy. Is it creepy? I should have called first, no. Chioma practically shouted. No, you can't. I mean, now's not a good time. I'm not, the apartment is being fumigated, remember. You can't come up. There was a pause. I thought the fumigation was yesterday. Chioma closed her eyes. She couldn't keep track of her own lies anymore. Shade grabbed the phone. Emeka, this is Shade again. You know what? Come on up. Apartment 23B. Chioma would love to see you. No. Chioma lunged for the phone, but Shade held it away. Great. I'll be there in 5, Emeka said cheerfully. See you soon. The call ended, and Chioma stared at Shade in absolute horror. What did you just do? What did you just do? I did what you should have done a long time ago, Shade said calmly. I let reality in. You don't understand. He can't see this. He'll run. He'll think I'm disgusting. If he runs, then he wasn't the one. But you can't build a relationship on lies. And you definitely can't start healing until you stop hiding. Chioma looked around at her apartment with fresh panic. 5 minutes. She had 5 minutes before the man she was falling for saw her greatest shame. Help me, she whispered. Please, Shade. Help me clean something, anything. No, Shade said firmly. No more hiding. No more pretending. We are going to face this together. I can't. Chioma was hyperventilating now. I can't let him see this. I'd rather die. You're not going to die. You're going to be honest for once in your life. Shade grabbed her by the shoulders. Listen to me. You are more than this apartment. You are more than this mess. And if Emeka is half the man I think he is, he'll understand that. Nobody understands this. Chioma gestured wildly at the chaos around them. Nobody looks at this and thinks, oh, this is understandable. They think, this woman is broken. This woman is a slob. This woman has her life together nowhere but her Instagram feed. The doorbell rang. Chioma's heart stopped. She looked at Shade with desperate, pleading eyes. It's going to be okay, Shade said softly. I promise. But you have to let him in. I can't. You have to. The doorbell rang again. Chioma walked to the door as if walking to her own execution. Her hand shook as she reached for the doorknob. This was it. The moment her two worlds collided. The moment her carefully constructed facade came crashing down, she opened the door. Emeka stood there with a bottle of wine and that beautiful smile that had first made her heart skip. He was dressed casually in jeans and a fitted shirt, looking effortlessly handsome. Hey, he said warmly. I hope I'm not imposing. I just really wanted to see you, Anne. His voice trailed off as his eyes moved past her into the apartment. She watched his expression change, the smile faltering, the confusion settling in, the realization dawning. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. So, Emeka finally said, his voice carefully neutral. This is your place. This is my place, Chioma confirmed, her voice breaking. Tears were streaming down her face, but she no longer cared. This is who I really am. Not the Instagram post. Not the designer clothes. This mess. This disaster. This is the real Chioma Okafor. Emeka was quiet for a long moment, still taking in the scene. Chioma couldn't read his expression, which made it worse. Was it disgust? Pity? Anger at being deceived? Then he did something she didn't expect. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him, and set the wine bottle down on the only clear surface he could find, the entertainment center by the door. Okay, he said simply. Okay. So you need help cleaning. We can work with that. Chioma stared at him. What? You need help. That's okay. Everyone needs help sometimes. He looked around, assessing the situation with the same analytical approach he probably used at work. This is overwhelming, I can see that. But it's not impossible. You're not leaving. Chioma's voice was small. Emeka looked at her, really looked at her. Chioma, I told you I wanted something real. Real means seeing all of someone, not just the polished parts. You've clearly been struggling with this for a while. That doesn't make you disgusting or unworthy. It makes you human. But nothing. He rolled up his sleeves. Shade, you got garbage bags. Let's start with the obvious trash. That'll at least give us some floor space to work with. Shade grinned and pulled out the garbage bags Chioma had abandoned days ago. I like him, she announced to Chioma. We are keeping him. For the next 3 hours, the three of them walked. Emeka didn't judge, didn't lecture, didn't make Chioma feel worse than she already did. He just helped. He carried garbage bags downstairs, sorted through clutter with patient efficiency, and even tackled the kitchen sink that had defeated Chioma for weeks. She'd worked on the bedroom, organizing clothes into piles, keep, donate, and wash. She created a system, something Chioma had been unable to do alone. And Chioma. For the first time in months, she felt something shift inside her. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot. The apartment was still a mess. But it was a less overwhelming mess. And more importantly, she wasn't alone in it anymore. As they took a break around 7 p.m., sitting on the now visible couch eating pizza Emeka had ordered, Chioma finally found her voice. Why? She asked him. Why are you helping me? Why didn't you just leave? Emeka set down his pizza slice and looked at her thoughtfully. My sister struggled with depression after she lost her job. Her apartment looked a lot like this. I watched my family judge her, call her lazy, tell her to just clean up. None of it helped. What helped was when someone finally said, "You're not okay, and that's okay. Let me help you get better." Tears welled up in Chioma's eyes again. I don't know if I'm depressed. I couldn't seem to do it. Every time I tried, I'd get overwhelmed and give up. "That's okay," Emeka said gently. "But this isn't just about willpower. You might want to talk to someone. A therapist. Because if this is how you've been living while maintaining a perfect image everywhere else, that's exhausting. That's not sustainable." "He's right," Shade added. "And I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. I should have seen the signs, you never inviting anyone over, always making excuses, the way you'd panic whenever someone suggested coming to your place." "I got really good at hiding it," Chioma admitted. "Maybe too good." As they continued cleaning into the evening, Chioma felt something she hadn't felt in months: hope. The apartment wasn't magically clean, and she knew this was just the beginning of a longer journey. But for the first time, she believed that journey was possible. Around 10 p.m., as they were finishing up the living room, Chioma's phone rang. It was Mr. Okonkwo. "Hello," she answered, suddenly nervous. "Chioma, I hope I'm not calling too late. I wanted to be the first to tell you, Mrs. Ademola has made her decision. The Dubai position is yours. Congratulations." Moral lessons. As Chioma reflected on her journey 5 years later, sitting in her writing studio while preparing to speak at another conference, she wrote down the lessons she'd learned. Not as rules,